living furnace.
Yeah, you get pretty warm.
I do. Welcome to Folie, Deux, the podcast where we rate and rant all things spooky, but it's still just movies.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed.
Nope.
Nothing's changed yet. Not yet. It probably won't. So, with that said, Jessica, we spun the spooky spinner. We spun the shit out of it. And it landed on something. What did it land on?
Landed on Raw.
Raw. I've never heard of Raw before. Literally, today when we watched it.
Yeah. I can't remember if someone recommended it to me or I just saw the listing on, top 20 movies you haven't heard of or something.
Yeah, like a spooky movie. Yeah, I've never heard of it either. And I think part of it has to do just because it's French.
It's French.
It's completely French. It's from the land of France. So yeah, I've never heard of it. I might have seen the poster once. The poster looked kind of familiar, but then again, it's done in a way that's very similar to other.
It kind of looks like Don't Breathe.
Yeah. It almost looks like Moonlight too.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of whatever.
Yeah, you're right. You're a designer. Don't you know how to explain what the aesthetic is?
Colors and shades.
Wow. So wise.
Palette.
Oh, stop it. Slow down.
Is it going over your head a little bit?
Yeah, stop. So this movie came out in 2016. I'd say it looked pretty good. Overall, it felt like it was
squishy.
Oh God, it's squishy. This is the first time I've seen you get squeamish watching a movie and actually wince.
Gag.
Yeah. Oh, I was having so much fun watching her gag and dry heave. I just love it. I have this weird thing where I can't not laugh at.
You love a good fart joke and you love to watch people dry heave.
Yeah, it's the best. I don't know if it's part of it is just because I never dry heave.
So does my mom.
Yeah, your mom loves it too. Someday something will be happening if someone's dry heaving, and then me and your mom are just going to be laughing.
You're just
going to
snicker to each other.
And this movie is, quite up there on the disgusting level.
I mean, I think
different ways.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. I don't think it was over the top.
It's not turn it off right now.
No, but it was. That was kind of the theme through the whole movie. Is just raw carnage, baby.
Yeah, it's this movie kind of reminded me of Stoker. Stoker was a little bit more artsy or trying to be more artsy in the theme or whatever they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it didn't feel it as much. I liked it more than I like Stoker. So I say that. So hopefully my final review is more than Stoker. But it kind of took me off guard a little bit just based on what we saw from the trailer. The trailer didn't say anything. There was no words that came out. It was just more so wasn't it a collage of different shots and stuff? And
it didn't explain much. It just kind of, you got hints of what it was going to be. So you kind of understand the theme, but you don't know what the storyline really is.
No. And for those that were wondering and haven't seen it, maybe, for one, I'm not sure why you're listening to this podcast and you listen to it. Actually, no, they enjoy talking or listening to us talk about a movie.
No, I'm not going to put myself down that way. I am great.
Yeah. But the movie itself is about a young woman studying to be a vet in which she develops a craving for human flesh. Flesh. This movie's very French.
It's pretty French.
It's one of those movies where for us it would be why did you do that? They literally did. Very French, and to the point where there are certain things that they do that made us question is that just a French thing or is this movie just
it was
a movie?
Yeah, it was kind of that guessing game of, is this a cultural thing?
Yeah.
How some of the scenes worked out and how people interacted with each other. Or are they just completely exaggerating a college student's experience? And
I feel there was exaggeration when it came to certain scenarios in this movie, when it came down to just basic plot. The menu. It's I felt if you're if they're going for, they definitely went for a certain theme, and I think that's kind of what they were driving for, rather than how this works within this world. As in our world, because I can only assume that it's trying to be as realistic as not as possible, but it's within our world.
I just, I don't know, because when I was over in Germany, there's some people that I talked to that they were like, oh yeah, we go to raves, like we're going to like, and it was very much like, yeah, that's a thing, and our clubs here are very intense, and like, I
mean, but it's not just that; it's just like the university that
the university was like, ridiculous.
It's like, I'm like, what is this?
It was a free for all.
Where is the professors? Think about the children.
Einstein.
What would Einstein say? Yeah, like there were things like that bothered me in this movie, but
yeah, no, it didn't. It definitely kind of takes you out of the movie sometimes, because I think they wanted some of this to feel obviously like realistic. I don't think they wanted it to be a complete fantasy world. But when they didn't really set up the environment properly for certain elements, like you said, in the college, it's just a madhouse where it's like they have painting parties in their dorms and they throw like buckets of paint everywhere. It's like, who the fuck is cleaning that up?
The bathrooms too are just like full of graffiti everywhere. Like it's like a shitty high school or something.
It looks like an abandoned college.
Yes. Yeah. And the professors are assholes too.
Well, that can be the case, but just there's no one around to be like, hey, don't make them eat a rabbit liver.
And I don't understand the whole rookie and then elder senior thing either, when it's like
they had
the rookie is the first year, but then apparently you're an elder or you're a senior the second year.
Yeah, hazing rituals. And the people who were being hazed were obviously the first year students coming in. But the people who were hazing them were just the second years.
And this is a veterinarian school, so I'm assuming you do more than 2 years of school.
But I don't know. It's French.
It's French. Maybe they live there. They'd stay there the whole year. They'd cut down that 4 year and turn it into a 2 year. Maybe. That could be a thing. So before we jump in, the director is Julia. Watch me pronounce this last name. DeCorno. DeCorno? Maybe.
Say it like a French person.
DeCorno.
DeCorno.
DeCorno. Julia DeCorno. She has, I think this is her first movie that she's directed. She's like 30 or something from what I've seen other people talk about.
That hasn't
cannot confirm.
Her age hasn't been verified.
Yes. So not a lot of directing besides Raw. And then there's just like television shorts that she's directed. That's
pretty impressive if this is her first one.
It looked very well funded too. Looked like they had a lot of room to do things. And I mean, I'm not necessarily going to go through the cast because I don't really know.
We can't pronounce
their names. Yeah, they're just French actors. So excuse me for not knowing the European actors very well yet, until they get really well known. And then we throw them into Marvel movies and then boom. Here they are. Yeah,
once they're in Disney movies, we'll be able to point them out for you.
So, Jessica, let's jump into the movie. I'm sure you're going to have such an easy time.
I am
breaking this movie down
to retell this movie. So, our main character is Justine, and she's being dropped off at her veterinarian school by her parents, and we're also told that she has an older sister who is there as well. And from some of the dialogue between Justine and her parents, we know that her parents went there to study.
Both parents are veterinarians.
Interesting. To study vets.
Yep.
And we also, it's kind of like a almost medical campus, because there is a portion of the campus that houses the actual like doctors. Then we have veterinarians, then we have like a morgue, and I think one other place that they mentioned. But so she gets dropped off at school and she is settling into her room. She's going to sleep at night. And then all of a sudden we hear these like loud banging, and all of these people in balaclavas rush into her bedroom. And this is where she meets her roommate for the first time, Adrian.
Right, Adrian.
And during this kind of confusion, this is the first time she meets him as well. He must have come in late or something for moving in. But like there's a conversation between them, in between all this chaos, where she asks like, what the hell? I thought I was gay. I requested a female roommate. And he's like, well, I'm gay, so this is what you got. Which is such, that alone is just kind of...
Well, he makes a remark that he was like, they seem to think that's the same thing, so here we are.
Which, that seems like that's a very strange, I don't know if that's a French thing, but that seems like a strange concept to me, because I was in an all-girls dorm my freshman year. Did not request it. But, and so that's just like, just to throw someone in and be like, oh, well, he says he's gay, so that's totally...
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how do you
prove it?
How do you confirm that? Especially if someone requests a female roommate or a male roommate.
Well, so like, not only are they barging in or, like, you know, rushing in, he's holding like a ski pole, just like random objects that people are holding.
Well, I think Adrian's holding the ski pole because they don't know what's going on, and so all these people are rushing in. They start throwing all of their shit around their dorm room, like messing up. They throw their mattresses out the window, and they're screaming at them. They're like, "Get out in the hall! Get out in the hall!" And we find out that all of the first years are out in the hall, all in pajamas and like underwear and stuff like that. And this is part of the hazing. Yeah. So they're then kind of just corralled and like guided into these like, it was like kind of like a basement. I would say it's such a weird layout of the campus. So they're kind of having these students like crawl around campus in these weird places, and the structures are very unclear. So I have no idea where the fuck they were.
I wouldn't even, like, the only way I could describe how it looked like they were walking or like literally crawling under like a bridge, what would be like a normal bridge in which you drive over. Like, it looked like it was underneath something like that, but it's way shorter. Like,
it's like the very point of on the ground to the bridge slope.
Yeah. And it's just like, it just looked very odd too, because I was thinking like, what would these be if they were if they were standing up? They would be hitting their heads on the ceiling of what they were crawling under.
I could not place what part of
and there was lighting. Yeah, there was like lighting under it too. So it served some kind of purpose beforehand, but apparently not. Yeah,
it was strange. But so they end up having all the first years go down into this kind of like basement that they might have either like broken into or it's not used anymore on campus. It just turns into this giant like rave party where everyone's like drinking, taking drugs, doing all that. And Justine is just kind of bumping around. You can tell she's completely just thrown out of the blue into this. And so her life, we can assume, has been very kind of sheltered. So she has no idea what the fuck is going on. So she's just kind of stumbling around this party.
Well, we see like the beginning of the movie too. They were at a restaurant, like her and her parents, and they specifically point out how like that whole family are vegetarians, and they specifically say like no to meat. And that they're very particular about certain things like that. Like, it means a lot to them.
Yeah. That was a big... I can't believe I missed that.
That's why I'm here.
I have to retell that.
No.
But yeah, so they... And in that scene where they're at the gas station, like, on the way to the school, Justine ordered, like, mashed potatoes, and she's eating it, and then there's a meatball in it, and she kind of, like, almost moans like a little kid as she's trying to spit it out and signaling her parents like, oh, there's something in my mouth. And her mom gets up and like starts yelling at people. And so there is a big display of like her trying to be protected by her parents in a way.
And the lady too that served the mashed potato, she like very chucked it on her plate. It was very aggressive.
Yeah. But anyway, so Justine's in this party and she's walking around, and then this is where we first meet Justine's sister Alex, and Justine sees her from across kind of this little room. She runs up to her, grabs her, and they obviously embrace. And so Alex shows Justine like other parts of the room because she's like, I have to go pee, you come with me, and I'll show you kind of this little alley or this little kind of hidden room. So they go into this other room. It's completely pitch black, and Alex is kind of playing tricks with the lights, flashing them on and off. And we see all of these pictures of former students and vets that have been like photographed after one of the hazing events. And Alex points out that in some of the pictures, some of the students' heads were cut out. And that's because they didn't participate in all of the hazing. Yeah. And she's like, those fucking traitors.
Calls them traitors.
So it was like a very big deal to be a part of this. And then Alex also points out that there's a picture with both of her parents in it too. So this is very much a like family thing that you go to the school, you participate, you deal with all of this shit. And so then the next morning, Justine, she goes to like her classes. She interacts with her roommate. There's also a part where they're sitting in class. They must have been taking a test or something. And she sees that her roommate is kind of trying to copy off of her. Mm-hmm. And this is where it's kind of established that Justine's really smart, because she's talking to him. She's like, it's not that hard. Just, figure it out. And he gets kind of upset with her. They're saying that, it's not hard for you. But so she turns in her test to her teacher, who again remarks about her brilliance, saying that like, oh, well, looks like you've lived up to the expectations and the hype. And then he fucks with her and is looking at her paper and he's like, well, I already see a mistake here, though. So we'll see if you actually can handle this. Yeah. Which is just such a weird interaction. Like, that was the first teacher, but whatever.
That was I wouldn't say the only teacher, but
that's the only one she interacts with. What?
It's the only one she really interacts with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the only ones she interacts with. So then we are taken to another hazing ritual where the first years, the rookies, are all kind of lined up together in a group right next to the side of this building. And we have some older students. They ask to be referred to, or they demand to be referred to as their elders. And they're kind of explaining, you're going to go through this whole year, and once it's over, we'll blast these horns. But as of right now, you do everything that an elder tells you. Mm-hmm. So then they finish it off kind of by dumping buckets of blood on top of all of these first years. And a lot of them are, they never tell you if it's real blood or not, but it's vet school, so I'd assume like they have access to it.
Yeah, they do have access.
But yeah, so they dump all this blood on them, and you have some people who are kind of like laughing, and so it doesn't necessarily feel like a very ominous or like scary scene or moment for these students. It's just kind of, they're just doing whatever they're told, and this is part of the whole shit. So after that, they're led into kind of this open field where they're all of the rookies are standing in line. And as Justine is getting closer and closer to the front of the line, she sees that the kind of finalizing part of this hazing is that everyone has to eat like a rabbit liver or something, or spleen. And then they take like a shot of alcohol. And Justine tells the people who are handing them out, tell the rookies, that she's a vegetarian. She can't eat that. She's a very strict vegetarian. And they then bring her sister over, and her sister's like, it's no big deal. Just like, so she grabs one, she eats it, and she's like, just do it, get it over with. It's fine. Justine refuses, to the point where Alex comes over and basically kind of pops it in her mouth, and then Justine eats it. Mm-hmm. She walks away, and she's sick right afterwards. Later,
but she didn't necessarily need to eat it. She just put it in her mouth.
She could have just put it in her fucking mouth and then spit it out, like the fucking meatball, like the fucking meatball. So
it's the principle.
No. So later that night, she's in bed, and we can see her. She's kind of scratching under the covers, tossing and turning. And then she pulls back the covers and she turns on her light, and she screams because her body is just completely covered in rash. And you can hear the like crunching skin as she itches.
Yeah,
and,
that was tough to watch. Just to hear
the scratching. I hate when I hear someone scratch, especially like dry skin.
That's what made it worse. It's not just like the scratching, it's like seeing how bad it looks, and then
So yeah, that was just an uncomfortable part to watch, just because the audio for that was just bleh.
Yeah, I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, they did. So the next morning, Justine goes to a doctor. The doctor tells her, well, this is probably just a reaction to some food poisoning or something like that. She gives her this kind of topical cream that Justine inspects, and it's like a white tube with like pink dots on it.
They like specifically, there's a shot of her looking at it, and then we get to see a little bit of it too.
So, and as she's talking with this doctor, the doctor like knows that Justine is a student at this veterinarian school, and the doctor shares some of her experiences that she had with previous students and tells her how kind of cruel the students can be. Mm-hmm. She's like, just, I would recommend stand in a corner and make yourself unseen, which is like, holy fuck. There's no fucking way I would go to a school like that.
No.
Like, school's already stressful. and the fact that you're studying to be a veterinarian, and then the fact that everyone's an asshole.
You're trying to do good. Not just for yourself, but especially for that profession. You're trying to do good onto...
You're trying to be a good vet. You're trying to study to be a good vet. Like,
and they make a specific point, too, when she was first talking with some of her other classmates, and they're talking about, like, really, like, graphic stuff.
They're talking about kind of, like, animal violence and abuse. And Justine is defending the animals.
Her perspective is that of protecting the animals, where everyone else seems to be like,
well, they're just animals.
Yeah, they're just animals. What are you talking about?
Which, just seems very odd for being at veterinarian school. But knowing the kind of like overall arching theme, that makes sense. So we see Justine kind of go throughout this educational experience being humiliated by the elders, kind of forming a friendship with her roommate. And there's one scene where they're getting their lunches together, and we've seen scenes before where they're getting their food, and Justine obviously is just getting the vegetables, avoiding the meat. Well, in this one, she is going through the line, and then she passes by this kind of, it's like buffet style. So she passes by this bin of hamburger patties, and she just reaches, like she looks around so that no one's looking. She reaches her hand and she puts it in her white coat pockets. So, and she reaches from the bottom of it. So it's like
greasy
juicy
as fuck.
And greasy. And so then when she's going to kind of pay for her food, the person who's checking her out is like, yeah, okay, so what's in your pocket? And then she begrudgingly admits that she had stolen a hamburger patty.
She does the Mark Wahlberg. What? No. You stole it. I saw you. What? Is that on our Spooky Spinner? The Happening?
Fuck, I hope not.
Well, now that I said that, it probably should be.
Why did we watch that?
I did. For the meme of it.
So, so she is caught, and Adrian is with her, and he's like, dude, I could have paid for that. That's no problem. She's like, no. Like, I don't want anyone to see me eating meat. And she actually just tosses it in the garbage. She doesn't even eat it. Well, later on that night, she's just super hungry. And she had told the doctor too. She's like, I'm always hungry. It doesn't matter if I've eaten like just before, I've eaten a few hours before, whatever. I'm always hungry. And so in the middle of the night, she is like crouched by her mini fridge, just rummaging through it. And she wakes up Adrian, who's asking her what she's doing. She tells him like, oh, I'm just getting milk for cereal. He goes back to bed. And then we see her just gnawing on some raw chicken.
Yeah. And apparently that raw chicken is actually just sugar.
What?
It's just sugar.
Like, what do you mean?
I don't know. Sugar? Somehow they formed it to look like chicken breast.
Huh.
And it did look odd to me. Like when we were seeing it, I was like it looked like a tongue just because of the coloration on it and the way it curved. But apparently, it's just sugar. And she said, that's what was said about the scene, and it didn't disgust her from chicken, but rather she can't eat like candies anymore. There's just so much fucking sugar.
I'm wondering if that was like, it can't just like, it's got to be like actual candy, like Laffy Taffy.
It's something.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like that would either burn chewy. Her hands or it'd be stiff if it was just sugar.
Yeah.
But so it's clear that she has this craving for raw meat. We're taken again through just kind of normal everyday life. She goes on just like a little bus trip with Adrian because he wants to show her like one of his favorite sandwich spots or something like that. And as they're driving down this road, leaving the college, they see this car that's just been basically totaled because it's crashed into a tree. And she's just watching as the bus passes by this body that's on a stretcher. And
I just thought it was weird just because I know that it's protocol that you're supposed to cover up the scene. Like, you strategically place cars so when you drive by, no one can see what happened. I've only seen like bodies once.
What?
Yeah, we went coming back from the Grand Canyon. We came back down, and I remember specifically because we were with my grandparents and we're all like talking and everything in the car. And we had to drive by slowly because we saw cars up ahead and cop cars and everything. And then when we looked to the left, there was 5 bodies on the ground scattered on the desert, and there was a car that was flipped, and all the bodies were still on the ground. Jesus. And all they had was just green like blankets or tarp or whatever they had. It looked probably tarp just on the bodies. They didn't like, it was so fresh that they'd never picked up the bodies yet or anything, and they couldn't cover it up, and they were all dead. They were all just laying there. I remember seeing people's feet.
I don't know if I've seen a dead body, but I've seen someone get hit on a bike.
Really?
Yeah. Huh.
Raw, everybody.
Raw, everybody. So then, again, we're taken back to Justine in kind of her schooling, and she's talking to the one professor who had kind of poked a little fun at her earlier, and he's actually discussing how he knows that either Justine has helped Adrian cheat or Adrian has been the one cheating off of her. And the whole time he's talking, she's just gnawing on her long brown hair.
Yeah, she can't stop eating it.
Yeah, she can't stop eating it. And what I was thinking while I was watching that, I was like, if I was that professor, I'd be like, stop fucking eating your hair. Get that out of your mouth. And yeah.
I don't know if he just thought it was because it was like a nervous tick, like he's scolding her.
But like, even so, that is a mental, like, there's something going on with you're anxious. It's too
I've gone to school and I haven't been that anxious before. I've
never been that anxious. I know of people who do that. Yeah. Which it's actually like something that they have to, really be conscious of and work on. But if I was a teacher and I saw this and there wasn't any signs of her doing that before, I'd be like, get that fucking out of your mouth. I'm talking to you. A little more like a disrespect kind of thing. And then right after that scene, we go right into a bathroom where she's over the toilet and I can't even talk about it.
What's she doing? She's gagging right now.
She starts pulling this like
what?
Like these clumps of hair that have been like in her throat, and it's like one of those like never-ending handkerchiefs from a clown, but she just keeps pulling like this hair rope out of her throat, and she's like, it's so disgusting.
The best to watch. I loved that part just because I looked back at you and you're like wrenching.
Oh God, because just the thought of that, like, oh God.
Just doing it.
It's so gross. It's so gross. So, I mean, way to go, Rox. Yeah. Jesus fucking Christ. I found that absolutely disgusting. I don't know how you didn't.
I just don't.
Oh, fucking freak out. So, later, either that night or like a couple nights later, she goes to her sister and she tells her that, she's not feeling that well and she just kind of wants to spend some time with her. So they're hanging out. They go to Alex's room.
And something that I wanted to note too was the director discovered Alex, or the actress, in a Swiss German film called War in like 2014 or whatever. But she wanted her to be in her movie, but she didn't realize she was actually a woman until after watching it.
And she thought she was a man.
Yeah, she thought she was a man.
She does. In the like very last scene that we see Alex, I was like, she kind of like...
I was going to bring that up,
if you didn't know. She's gorgeous, but there are like scenes where she doesn't have any makeup on, and there's
her hair's
kind
different
of like,
and slicked back.
Yeah, this ambiguity to her. But so they go back to Alex's room, and they're talking about just like hot girl shit. And Alex mentions just kind of how I think naive Justine is, and how there are still qualities of her that are like...
She's 16, so like there's things to note that...
What do you mean she's 16?
She's 16. She's supposed to be 16 in this movie.
How the fuck is she going... I do not know how the French works.
It's French. So that's another thing where we're just like, wait, what? And then we have to be like, well, I mean, it's French, I guess. The French listeners out there, because there are people in France that are listening to this from what I'm seeing.
You know what? I'm so sorry if we've offended you.
French.
I love your fries.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, we just like, I don't know the customs for things. I don't know how things work necessarily.
No, I mean, it's like tough. You have that kind of general knowledge where everyone's like, oh, well, you can have wine as a kid,
Yeah.
But that's.
But I mean, like I think just the fact that you have like an older sister with a younger sister and be like, no, this is how these are the routines that you follow now as a young woman. Like my sister showing my other sister how to put on makeup and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a sister thing.
It kind of felt like things like that because she was like plucking her eyebrows to make them even and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
I don't think I did that with my sister.
No, I'm not saying every sister does, but
don't think we have that relationship. She's kind of talking to her and just kind of showing her like, oh, this is, this is what I do, this is what you do. And then she mentions a Brazilian wax, and Justine's like, what's that?
What is that?
What is that? And
like that thing that's been around for almost 40 years.
Yeah. And the next scene we have is Justine is on the bed with her legs spread. She's wearing she's wearing underwear, but her sister is going to wax her. And just before this too, they were like bonding on this rooftop drinking, and her sister pulls down her pants and just starts peeing standing up, and then Justine comes over to her and does the same thing. They both do it. They're both, and I get being drunk, but I don't think I've peed it like that in front of anyone.
You never peed in front of me.
No, I don't. No. The closest is like one of us is in the shower, and I'm like, stay in there. I gotta go to the bathroom really bad. So she is going to wax Justine. Alex is going to wax Justine, and she starts to do it a couple times, and it's super painful for Justine. She's like, no, I don't want to fucking do it anymore. Well, Alex puts on one last strip that she's going to do, and I thought this scene was her flesh was going to come off.
That's what I thought too,
because I think Justine was brushing her teeth in Alex's bathroom, and she starts looking through her medicine cabinet. Yeah, she's going to stay overnight, so she's looking through her medicine cabinet, and she notices the same cream that she was given by the doctor in Alex's cabinet, which again, the camera kind of takes a moment to make sure that the audience registers that.
Yep.
And so I thought, like, because of this like weird rash that she's getting and all this stuff, her skin was going to rip off. So I was preparing myself mentally for that.
Yeah, I was too.
And then so the wax actually gets stuck on Justine, and so Alex goes to grab some scissors, and she's like, I'm just gonna cut it off, and Justine freaks out, and she's like, no, it's my pussy, get away.
Yeah, she does like a huge kick right to her fucking...
she does the 40-year-old virgin kick right to the face, and she knocks Alex down, and then as Alex gets back up, she like raises her hand and looks at her hand, and somehow the scissors had managed to cut off her like middle finger.
How did I'm still wondering how that even happened.
I'm confused on like how the logistics of it, how that all worked out.
I'm trying to like do it myself.
Well, so I thought Alex was maybe gonna stab her hand or something, or she was gonna like, the scissors were gonna like impale her somehow, but having the scissors complete, and scissors cut off a finger.
That's a lot of force. I get that she kicked. That's a ton of force.
She like, I don't know.
It happened.
It happened, and so Alex looks at her hand, and then she just completely passes out. Justine gets on her phone, calls 911. They're like, okay, we'll be there in 15 minutes. Go put it on some ice.
I was so frustrated because she was like, oh, like at first it was like, oh my God. And because Alex passed out, and then you're like, wrap that shit up. Cause there's like a little pool of blood that's starting to pool up by her hand, and she's passed out, and you're like, do something.
Well, do something. Like, the basics as a vet. If you're studying to become a vet, like, the basics. And even the person on the other end of the phone had told her, like, put it on ice. And she's like, yeah, I know that. Yeah. Well, she doesn't. She doesn't even wrap up her sister's hand and do, like, a tourniquet thing.
I would assume the person on the other end would be saying, like, do you know what to do? And she'd be like, no.
Put pressure on the hand.
Okay, let me tell you what to do.
Put the finger on ice. Yeah. And, of course, so she goes to the mini fridge. Of course, there's no ice. And she's, like, holding her sister's finger as she's just kind of, like, looking at it. And then the blood starts to pool in Justine's hand as she's holding the finger. And she licks it. Yeah, she licks the blood, and then she starts, like, she kind of, like, nibbles at the raw edge of the finger, and then she starts eating it like a fucking piece of baby corn. And so she's, like, just kind of devouring this, and then in the background, we see Justine we see Alex rise up and look at her in this like horrified way, and just a single tear streams down her face as she's watching her sister eat her fucking finger. Her sister also has a dog who's in the room who's been like kind of sniffing around, licking at the blood, and so then after that we see Justine sitting with her parents in this kind of like waiting room in the hospital, and the doctor rolls Justine out, and clearly the sisters have told the parents that the dog was the one who ate the finger. And eventually the dad is talking to Justine alone, and he tells her how the dog needs to be put down because as soon as an animal gets a taste of flesh, you don't know if they'll like it and they might bite again. Which,
I know. Hello.
did your dog eat your finger?
No. I guess
A
like
toe?
they're like, hey, do you know? Has it happened to you?
There's
No.
one story that my uncle tells where this really rich guy, ended up like owning a pair of skunks or something. And he passed out drunk and the skunks ate part of his fingers.
Really?
Yeah, which my uncle has lived a very colorful life. So there's good chance that that's real. But then he's also a bullshitter. So there's a really good chance that it's
Is
not.
it the moral of the story? Stay away from skunks.
You stick with dogs.
You stick with dogs, they treat you right.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I don't know.
Okay. So Justine and Alex are dropped back off at school.
Yep.
And Alex grabs Justine and tells her that they need to have a talk. Well, she takes Justine on that long road that Justine and Adrian had passed on the bus where they saw the
They
car
passed
crash.
on the bus.
On
Yeah,
the
they
bus.
walked there.
They walked there from
Okay.
the school.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I don't know what the fuck is wrong with movies, but they do not know.
They suck with distance
They
sometimes.
really suck with distance
Yeah.
and walking.
Mhm.
50 miles?
50 miles.
Anyways, so Alex takes Justine to this road and they kind of go in this ditch right by the side of it and they're crouching down and Alex really isn't explaining anything to Justine and Justine is asking all of these questions and Alex is just watching the road and she's watching this car start to pass by and then she kind of jumps out in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is something that also bothered me. So the car swerves and crashes into a tree. There are two passengers in there, and the horn is just like honking.
Blaring.
They're just laying on the horn,
Yeah.
which doesn't make sense. But
It doesn't make sense because his head is not on.
because the driver's head is on the handle of the
Yeah.
steering wheel.
Yeah.
There's no pressure on the horn, so it's just like you think as like a director, you'd be like, hey, can you just put your body weight just on there?
I'd be so meticulous on certain things like that as a director. It makes me always wonder what I would be like.
or just take the horn noise away.
I'm such a stickler for like continuity. Like
Yeah.
I remember the smallest things, and I know it bothers people, but I'm like,
well, they zoom
you're
in
gonna
on the
notice this.
driver.
Yes.
So it's like, dude, come on.
Here's what it is.
The
It's
steering
France.
wheel.
It's France, so they don't honk their horns
Maybe
the same
the
way.
whole horn is like the
Horn. No,
yeah.
it's like a like a little
Awooga.
clown, like a clown nose, and goes. He has it down on the side, and he was about to honk at her, and then he crashed, and then he died.
Both of
He
his
kept
hands were
his
on the
hand
steering
clenched.
wheel. Just kidding.
You know, it
Justine freaks out. Alex is on the ground. She goes to check if Alex is okay, which she's fine.
Yeah.
She comes out
I don't know
without
why
a
she
scratch.
like even pretended to be like, oh.
Yeah, she's just
what?
laying on the ground. So it's like, okay,
You
did
didn't
you
get
get hit or are you just, I don't know. It
You're just
doesn't make
laying
sense. So then Justine goes to look and see if the people in the car are all right. And they're both either passed out or dead.
One's dead, but the other one they specifically show him like
Breathing.
before,
So-
and I'm like, ooh, okay, spicy.
Yeah.
Something's gonna happen.
But they're all like cut up and bloody
Mhm.
and it's kind of gory. So Justine walks away. She's horrified by the scene in the car. Alex gets up and she starts walking to the car, opening the door. Justine is protesting, saying like, don't go over there. Don't look at that. And Alex opens the door and she just starts gnawing on the one guy who was kind of alive still.
Yeah.
She just starts gnawing on his head because he has this open wound on his head.
Mhm.
And Justine pulls her off and tells her to spit it out. And just like,
Spit that out.
you spit that out right now.
We didn't pay for that.
And so Justine is freaking out. Alex is getting mad at her because she's like, what? It was okay when it was my finger? She's like, how did it taste?
Yeah.
And then I think Justine says something about like, you tasted like curry.
Just like curry.
Okay. But yeah, so they go back to school and
What happened with all of that?
well, it's so weird because we just have a shot of Justine walking on the road alone.
Mhm.
We don't have Alex with her. There are cars passing by. Like, it's kind of a weird shot, but they get back to school. And then things are kind of going back to normal. Justine is trying on a dress in her room. She has these headphones and she's listening to this music, and this is a dress that Alex had lent her, which it didn't really fit at first, but now it's starting to fit her. And so she starts dancing and like very seductively in her mirror to herself and like making out on the mirror with herself.
Yeah. And with that scene too, she's actually listening to gothic rock / rap duo Ortiz, and that band is made up of two sisters who often rap about men in the traditional way in which male rappers talk about women.
Yeah, we had the subtitles up, and I don't know if that was actually like put on the
it's hard to tell when you have subtitles
for a movie that has subtitles.
Yeah,
but yeah, some of the lyrics were like, "I want to have sex with a dead body," which I'm like, cool, yeah, jam out to whatever, but maybe tone it down a little bit. It's kind of on the nose here. And then Justine hears, so their dorm room is set up where Justine and Adrian have their own rooms, and then they have in between the rooms is their kind of common little living space. So Justine hears some noises and some people talking in the living space. She goes out and she sees Adrian, her roommate, and Alex playing a video game. Adrian ends up leaving to go to a different party, and Justine sits down with Alex, and she can see that Alex is kind of eyeing Adrian, and one way or the other, Justine tells her like, "Hey, hands off." And Alex responds by like, "Oh, well, I thought he was gay anyway, so it doesn't matter." That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
That's what we all thought.
Yeah.
Later on, we also have Justine. She's sleeping again. And I don't know if this was fully her dream or not, but she's under the covers and she's being like hit by something. Like there's like kind of this clinking.
Sounds like coins.
Sounds like coins or something that she's being hit, and she's like, if it's a bad dream, she's having this like very vivid bad dream where she's being attacked, and she's under the covers the whole time. Eventually, she either pulls the covers off or she wakes up, walks out of her room down a hallway because she can hear more people in a room. She goes into the room which has an open door, and she's immediately splashed with this bucket of blue paint. So she looks like she could be part of the Blue Man Group, like covered head to toe.
It's impressive how much.
It's a lot of paint.
Yeah.
But they just throw it at her with the door open. So it's not only in their room, but it's in the hallway. And everyone at that party is covered in paint. I'm like, who the fuck is cleaning this shit up? That would take so much work. I would be so pissed if I was like a janitor or on part of the cleaning staff.
Oh, God damn it.
I would murder a student. So
it's just hazing. It's just typical haze in this school.
I fucking hate haze. So she's covered in blue paint, and then they have like people in blue paint and people in yellow paint, and so they grab a guy who has yellow paint, and these elders like throw him into a room. They're like, "Don't come out until you're both green." So they start rubbing in the colors to each other. The guy obviously goes to start making out with Justine, who she at first is not comfortable with it, pulls away, and then he tells her like, "Oh, don't worry, like I'll be gentle, or we'll go slow," or something like that. And they start making out, and then we are taken out of that room into kind of the main room where all of the other people are, and we hear him scream, and he comes flying out the door, and there's a chunk of his lip,
missing.
A full chunk of his lip, not like a little bite. It's a full chunk, like a starburst size.
You're scarred.
Chunk that's taken out of his lip. And how people don't freak the fuck out when they say, if I saw that at a party, I'd be like, cool, time to leave this country.
I'm done.
It's ridiculous. And people just are kind of like staring at her, and they're like, oh my God, she's like kinky. What the fuck?
She's like, yeah, you could say that.
So she goes back to her room. She's showering off all of this paint, and this piece of his lip was stuck in between her teeth that kind of falls out.
I don't understand that.
It's a big piece. It's like a chunk of his lip that falls out. That was
just in the back of her mouth.
Stuck in the back of her tooth or something.
It's not like she had braces where you pack that shit in there.
But she could have, because, hey, she was 16. Fuck. So, and this whole time she's been like trying to stay away from obviously eating all of this flesh, but she picks it up and she consumes it. After the shower, she goes to over to Adrian in his room. He's laying on the bed and he's just kind of smoking some weed and they're talking. And he's asking her, he's like, oh, like, I didn't know you were into kinky shit. And
she went, no, what?
And she's like, well, you're gay, so it doesn't matter. Like, why do you care? And he's like, yeah, true. And then she's like, okay, cool, I'm going to go. And you can tell that she finds him attractive. There are these moments where she's staring at him, and as a viewer, you don't know if it's like she just thinks that he's hot or she wants to eat him. We don't know.
We don't know.
So she ends up going, telling him that she's going to bed. He is still smoking, and then he takes out his computer, and then he starts watching porn.
He's jacking off.
Yeah. Just jacking it.
Yep. What you doing? Just jacking it.
So, and then she comes like kind of bursting through his door, and she's like, what does she say?
Oh, damn it.
I know.
Because it was such a weird line.
It was something like, no, I'm not okay. Or it was something.
I'm not fine. Or something.
Yeah, it was something along the lines of like, just something like, and reading their conversation beforehand, it must not have translated super well, or the inflections would like we couldn't
and that's
place
why I
where
brought
the
up,
inflections were.
I brought that up when we were watching the movie too. I was like, yeah, we're reading the text and stuff, but I don't understand the inflections of how they're saying things, or like I didn't find anyone to be particularly funny. I know it's not supposed to be a funny movie or anything, but like with some of the character work and how they interact with each other,
seems pissed off
they seem really mad. Yeah,
and it could be just because they're French.
It could be.
And I told you that story where when my sister was really little, she went up to my mom. She's like, Mom, I learned French today. And my mom was really excited because she was like, oh, they're teaching other languages in school. So she's like, oh my gosh, what did you learn? She goes, ho, and then she just runs away. And my mom's like, God damn it. Like, stupid kids.
But yeah, like I feel like we miss out on some of that too. But like even just having to read subtitles too sometimes bothers me. Like I said during part of it too, I realized I was looking at the actors and their faces, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't know what they're saying. I'm looking at their lips for some reason. Well,
it's hard because there is this level of coldness with certain characters. Like later on, Alex texts Justine saying that they've put the dog down and Mom's really sad. Lol. And then it was like hashtag so cute.
So cute, yeah. Put down the dogs, hashtag so cute.
Yeah. What?
And
I don't know if that's just like her specific character or I don't know, whatever. So she busts back into Adrian's room and then they just start having sex.
Yeah. Which
confused the shit out of me because there have been moments where we see Adrian, he's like hooking up with guys, he's making out with guys. He has repeatedly said that he's gay, and it's not like, oh, I'm bi, or yeah, I get with guys and it's I'm gay. And so I was kind of confused on like what was going on, but I was like, okay, whatever. And so they start having sex, and the whole time they're having sex, Justine is trying to bite him.
She's like increasasingly getting more
aggressive and violent.
I'm sure they're just like, you're a zombie at this point.
She absolutely looked like an animal. Very animalistic. And Adrian, who knows, he was at the paint party and they had talked about like her taking a piece of that guy's lip with her. Yeah. And so he's like pulling her back and he's grabbing her by the hair and he keeps telling her to like stop trying to bite me. And then she basically finishes by biting herself and drawing a ton of blood. And Adrian's like, he's underneath her watching this, and he just starts petting her hair like, okay.
Is it good for you?
He's like, and this is why I don't sleep with women.
Yeah.
Then we have, I think like the next day or the next couple days, she's sitting with Adrian and she is getting upset with him because he is acting again cold towards her, and she's just confused. She's like, you just took my virginity. Why don't you like me? And he's like, fuck you. Like, I haven't been in the closet for 20 years to like be like back with girls again. He's like, this isn't me.
Gay.
Yeah. He's very clearly, he's like, I'm gay. Just deal with it. Which she doesn't like. And then I think next we see her and she's wasted at this underground party. She's wearing the dress that her sister gave her, and the shot is like her legs are completely open too, so it's very Symbolic.
Open for business, baby.
Let those floodgates fling up.
And something that like came out of nowhere in that scene.
Oh, like. Yeah, because so it's like the camera zooms in through the crowd, and so it's going past people, and there's this couple.
It's like there's a couple, and you thought that they were about to make out or something.
At first.
Because it was like they're getting really close to each other, but they weren't really doing anything. And then as soon as the camera gets to a certain point, she just like licks his eyeball.
She like holds his fucking lids open and she just starts licking his eye.
She puts her tongue directly on his eye.
Oh my God.
And it stays there too. And she's like,
these are the grossest things ever. Like,
is that you gagging?
I'm taking that up. But
no.
I can't imagine being either part of that situation, like on either end. I can't imagine licking someone's eye or having someone lick my eye.
You sure you don't want me to try?
Dude, if you try, we're breaking up done. So fucking fast.
You even seen it's not as bad, but Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
I don't like Jim Carrey, so that's all you.
Where he like touches his eye and goes, ew.
I don't care about touching your eye. That's a different thing. That's something that I feel like I don't love the idea of touching your eye, but I can handle that without gagging. This one, not so much.
I'm not going to gag for it, but it definitely was like, oh my God, what the fuck is happening?
Oh, Jesus. Because her tongue is like just kind of like flicking through his eye. Ugh, Jesus Christ. That was disgusting. And so back to the actual story. Justine is getting more and more drunk. She has like this full cup of vodka that she just downs, and she's already wasted. Yep. Even before that point, she's upsetting other people by bumping into them and like coming onto them. And then she bumps into her sister, and her sister pulls her into the morgue, which apparently is right next door to this party.
Have any kind of access to that. But.
Yeah, she pulls her into the morgue, and we see Justine, it looks like she's just about to pass out on this table, like, and her sister opens one of the like doors, the little like human cubby doors. Yeah. I don't know what you call them.
A morgue door.
A morgue door. And then the next day, like then it cuts to the next day. Justine is clearly hungover, but she goes to class, and as she's walking into this big lecture, you hear all these people whispering around her, giving her these weird looks. She sits down next to this girl. The girl like moves clearly to get away from her.
Which she like smells herself, and that's what we assume that's why
what you
she's
assumed,
like,
and we're like, oh, she's just a
like, yeah,
gross
I guess
mess.
She would be pretty disgusting.
It smelled disgusting if I had that much alcohol the night before. And so after this class, she's leaving the building, and Adrian is standing waiting for her. He grabs Justine and pulls her over into this like bathroom to be alone with her, and be like, Justine is asking him what he's doing, why he's doing this. And Adrian just pulls out his phone and shows her this video that someone had taken at the party, where as like all of these people are surrounding Justine and Alex has pulled a body out of one of those morgue cubbies. Yep. And Justine is on the ground, and she looks possessed. Like, she's so drunk, her eyes are almost rolled back in her head. She's on the ground crawling like an animal, and Alex is holding this dead guy's arm and telling Justine to bite it. She's like, come on, get the hand. And Justine is trying to like kind of jump up a little bit and bite it. Mm-hmm. She you don't ever see her bite it in the video, but
she's like a drunk little zombie.
She's like a drunk fucking freak. And so Adrian is trying to talk to her and ask her what the fuck is going on. Justine is pissed because her sister is very coherent in this video, where she's like, I need to go confront Alex. So she goes, she finds Alex. There's a bunch of kids up on a roof, and they're all hanging out. And she goes up to Alex, and she just starts to like kind of, they start fighting. They start to tussle, and the fight gets more intense, and Alex goes to Justine, and she bites off a part of her cheek.
A fucking cheek.
And she spits out, and she goes, you taste like shit. and everyone around, like, everyone has their phones out by now, but they're like, oh, shit. Boy. But no, if I saw a fight like this, Jesus Christ.
Which they did stop him but not until after they both had like their jaws on each
so
other.
like Alex pushes Justine off. She's walking away. Justine gets pissed again. She goes after Alex, and they both kind of have like one arm on each other's shoulders, and they're both biting the other person's arm. So they have like, you know, and they're drawing a ton of blood. Eventually people pull them apart, and we see that these other students have Justine and Alex kind of almost tied up with like scarves and like shirts and stuff like that by the neck.
It was like, it was so intentional.
Oh yeah, it's very like, look at how they're treated like animals. And and because so we have Justine and Alex, and they're on all fours trying to like move and like, you know, gnawing and all this stuff.
They look like rabid dogs.
They do, yeah.
I just thought it was, I'm like, they did that to both of them. They took scarves and wrapped around both of their necks and then held them back.
Well, and that's
next
the thing
to each
where
other
it's
too.
like, why wouldn't you get them on the ground, hands behind their head? Like that is the best way to set, but whatever. Yeah. So Justine and Alex break free, and they actually kind of embrace each other because they feel like they clearly understand the other person. And this whole time, like Alex is trying to show Justine, yeah, I'm the same way, and this is how I do it. And Justine is learning basically who she is through Alex, but Alex is kind of, it's more of like self-indulgence with Alex.
Yep.
But so they embrace, and clearly everyone around them is fucking freaked out because as soon as Alex and Justine get close to them, everyone kind of scatters and breaks away.
I mean, if I saw that.
Again, how, because the next scene we cut to is they're in Justine's room, and Alex is bandaging Justine's face, and they're kind of cleaning each other up, licking their own wounds, basically. But how the fuck would you not immediately have anyone at that school or police officers come and like, that's this is insane. So
this is still during the hazing, so everything's up in the air, apparently.
You know what? All's fair in
at least she you would think she'd get reprimanded for fighting even if it's her sister, you're still fighting.
No one's gonna fucking touch that.
What?
Those bitches are crazy. You're not gonna go up and scold her.
I'm just saying they seem to be very like into their rules and their law. So like they can't even look at each other while walking in hallways.
Yeah,
so.
Like the rookies aren't able to look at their elders, but
so you got a rookie fighting, not only fighting, but
it's it's a sibling thing, so they're probably like all within the family. So they're cleaning each other up, and it's now like nighttime, and so Justine leaves Alex in Justine's room, and we have a shot of Justine taking the key, and it's kind of a like it's weird. Not like doors that we have or doors that I've known where the key is used on both ends.
Yeah,
to
there's
either
no way
lock
to unlock the door.
Well, you either lock it from but you.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're on the side, the side that you...
So you either lock it from the inside with the key, or you can lock it from the outside with the key, but there's no, like, deadbolt or something that you can kind of unlock. And we have, as Justine leaves her room, we have a shot of her kind of holding the key next to the lock, like she wants to contain Alex, but then decides not to. So she leaves that door. And so Justine goes to bed. And then it's the next morning, we see Justine waking up, and she had crawled in with Adrian. And again, she's looking very lovingly at him, and she just is kind of like stroking his face and just basically petting him. And then she starts to like touch him under the covers. And then there's this realization of what the fuck. And she pulls.
Dead.
She pulls back. She pulls back the covers, and we can see that Adrian has, like, there's a huge portion, like half of his thigh has been just gnawed off. So you see bones and, like, tendons and
veins.
And Justine looks at herself in the mirror, and you can see a little bit of blood on her face, but even when we were watching, it wasn't, like, you wouldn't expect that like carnage with that blood.
Yep.
But she thinks that it was her, so she starts wiping the blood off. She gets up, and then she sees in the living room, kind of in the kitchen area, like the common space, her sister is sitting slumped on the floor, and her mouth and like body is just covered in blood. Justine also notices that Adrian has this kind of like hole, the stab wound in his back. And she picks up the ski pole that Adrian had, and she goes over to Alex, who is completely conscious, and they look at each other, and Justine holds the pole up to Alex's forehead. And for a second, you're thinking that she's gonna jam it in her head, and she's just gonna put her down. Yeah. She decides not to. She takes Alex into the shower, and she just washes her off. Mm-hmm. And so then it kind of transitions into, we have this mixture, this like face of both Alex and Justine, because they're on either side of this like glass window. Yep. And it's clear that Alex has been put away into a mental hospital, but there's still this like big sense of love between them. Mm-hmm. Because as they're leaving, Alex throws up her non-middle finger that was eaten by Justine, and Justine puts her face up. And time has passed because Justine's her wound on her cheek has fully healed. It's scarred, but it's healed. And so she puts her cheek up to the glass, and Alex kisses it on the other side. And then she's led away. And this is the scene where Alex has no makeup on. She's in baggy clothes, and she looks very different. She
looked like that guy from Stranger Things with the big hair. I don't remember people's names in it. I think so.
Huh. I didn't think so, but okay.
He did.
She did?
He did. She did. She looked like him.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So then Justine is at her home with her parents. She's sitting down to eat, and she has a plate that she's just kind of pushed her food around. And her mother's very upset, and she tells her, "You are not leaving that table until you finish all of your vegetables." And so her mother gets up, takes her and her father's plate, and goes into another room. And her father's sitting there across the table from her as Justine's still kind of poking at her food. And her father's telling her, like, don't take it personally. Like, he's like, this isn't your fault, and this isn't your sister's fault. He's like, we should have known. Mm-hmm. And Justine's looking at him kind of in a confused manner, and he ends up telling her that his wife is the same way. And as he's talking, the camera has a full like shot of his face, and we can see there's a scar that almost looks like it could have been like a cleft lip at some point, but there's a scar on his lip. He's like, I knew who your mother was when we had our first kiss. And that's when the viewer realizes like this comes from the mom, who's been the one who's the most adamant about the family being vegetarian. Right. And then the dad opens up he buttons open his shirt, and there are just scars all on his body. Like,
I want to know how I got these scars.
Me and your mom fucked hard.
Yeah. This was night one.
You. And he then tells Justine that you're just going to have to find a way to live with this.
This is it.
And this is it. And then the movie ends.
And that is it. I didn't have a lot of trivia, obviously, for this movie. The only other things I have is the movie was originally rated NC-17, and then because of its violence, but then it was changed to an R.
Yeah.
And the other thing too was just like, I think it's more marketing stuff where it's like when it was premiered in LA, they handed out barf bags and stuff like that. Well,
I did read that 2 people passed out in one of the showings.
I read that too, and then I read that another one said like 20 people left.
No, that's too.
Both left and puked during the movie or whatever.
The thing is like, if you're going to a scary movie premiere, don't be a little bitch.
Don't be a bitch. Yeah, it. I don't know. I don't care for that trivia too much, just because the numbers are always inconsistent, and I don't know when or not it's like intentionally as a marketing kind of thing. Just a movie being haunted. Or
and
whatever.
I feel like you hear that every few years, where there's a film that was
the new film.
Was it a Nicolas Cage movie? It was some kind of or maybe it was a Russell Crowe. I don't. But there's a movie that recently came out in the past couple of years where again it was like he's this serial killer, and it was so gory that like people like passed out, and the ambulance had to be called and blah. I actually was in a movie where someone passed out.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you say, don't be a bitch?
No, it wasn't even a scary movie. It was just some guy passed out.
Oh.
It was really strange because it just felt very surreal because we were watching it, and then this woman stands up, and she was pretty close to us, and she's like, "Oh my God, he's not awake. Someone call the cops, call an ambulance." And
everyone's just quiet.
Everyone's just quiet because we're just so taken aback by what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, you're there to escape, and then you have reality happening.
Well, and she again, of course, understandably freaks out even more. She's like, "What are you doing? Someone call!" And luckily, someone had enough sense. It wasn't me, but someone had enough sense to actually call.
Right.
And I think there were people, obviously, too, in the theater who helped him out. He was fine. He had just passed out, but he was fine. And then we just went back to watching the movie.
Sometimes that's all you have to do, or can do. So with that said, let's go into the IMDb reviews. Let's see what other people think about this movie. I will say, after talking about it a little bit more, I'm not as negative, I think I was with it.
Well, and I think to note, too, is part of the trivia is that this, if you didn't pick up on it before, but this whole movie was supposed to symbolize kind of your sexual awakening and experimentation. So this was Justine's introduction into sex, and then kind of her overindulgence in it being shown by someone who has already experienced this, and then
being able to find herself,
able to find where she lands.
Yep. IMDb reviews the within our age range. Male is 7.3 and female is 7.1. Review number 1: Growing Pains. 9 out of 10.
None or 9?
9 out of 10. Walkouts in film are a dime a dozen. Bad acting, terrible script, or maybe the vibe is all off. It's all part of the Hollywood game. When 20 people walked out of Raw in Paris last year at its first screening, it was none of these reasons.
9 of these.
9. The reason 20 people walked out and 2 fainted is because Raw is one of the most intense films to come out of the European state in quite a while.
It was the hair scene.
You think so? I think it was that eyeball. The crime of Raw is not that it's provocative. It is that has the intelligence to smooth it over with focused direction and smart writing thanks to the helm at both ends. Justine, played by an excellent, I'm not going to try to pronounce her name, is a strict vegetarian in the first year at veterinarian school. On the first night of her dorm is raided by senior students, and so begins a process of a long hazing exercise. One afternoon, she is forced to eat a raw rabbit kidney. The results are almost immediate, and she discovers within herself a craving for meat, preferring the raw variety. With all these events happening at the same time, she struggles to find her place in school. Juggling students, family, teachers with a crippling disease, I found myself drawing similarities between this and myself. No, it was with similarities between this and Brian De Palma's Carrie.
Well, yeah, just because of the blood.
Right.
But that's
and feeling isolated, not being part of the pack, but I don't know. Justine at a loss slowly succumbs to cannibalism, but you won't see any zombies or an Italian-inspired cannibals here. The second act leads us to the reasons as to why people walked out and missed a payoff and satisfying end. At heart, a cannibal film, but also more importantly, a story of a young woman trying to find her feet in the most blistering of circumstances. An original film for the first-time director and something you can surely sink your teeth into. They didn't really say much at all. I hate these reviews where and I included it because it's the top. I included it, It's just they just rehash what they saw and then just go, yeah, I liked it. And then that's it. And then come up with a pun at the end. Review number 2. The world would be a better place without this film in it.
Okay.
1 out of 10. I really hate this film. I hate the fact that it was made. And now it exists. And is in theaters where people are going to see it. No doubt being left with the feeling of disgust and hopelessness about humanity and the depths of depravity to which we have devolved.
I didn't get that.
No. The filmmaker, I guess, I'd have to hate as well. What kind of person would choose such a grisly subject to waste her talent on when there are so many other more appealing stories to tell? It's from France, written and directed by a talented young woman. I can't imagine that she really wants to promote the consumption of human flesh as a lifestyle, or to encourage people to jump out in front of cars on deserted roads to make them veer off the road and crash so that young flesh-eating girls can chow down on the brains splattered around the interior.
Telling a story doesn't mean that you're promoting something necessarily.
But here it is. This disgusting little film doing just that, making it okay, putting forth the ultra-liberal ideal that people must be allowed to do whatever they want to do to find happiness in this world.
They missed
Fly
it.
your freak flag high.
They missed it.
Flesh eaters of the world.
They missed the point of this movie.
It's not your fault you were made this way. Not only is flesh eating a lifestyle elevated to be equal to any other sort of proclivity, such as being a veterinarian, licking people's eyeballs, bestiality, public random pointless sex, what is promoted by this film is social and moral anarchy, a complete departure from anything considered moral or purposeful.
Okay, Jesus.
Ultra liberal. Of course. Having been exposed to the way the latest crop of humans love to overshare, vomiting their dystopian visions onto the marketplace of, I have no doubt that the director would scoff at the very idea that she is promoting the behavior this film is about. I don't know what that sentence was. And that she was merely making an observation about life. Or even worse, that she just thought it would be funny to treat flesh eating like any other eating disorder, such as anorexia. I get it. It's clever. Which only makes me hate this film even more. I hate it.
I mean, that does sound like someone who hates wit, so.
Some films just don't need to be made or seen. Some ideas.
Same with people.
Yep. Some ideas, if you think them up, you need to just forget about them instead of spending a year or two making a film about them.
This person is repressing a lot, I bet.
Because once you do that, then you're obligated to spend the next year trying to sell it and make money off it so you can make another movie. None of this justifies a horrible idea and the resultant artwork in the least.
Fart work.
Fart work is smart work. Artwork such as this only hastens the decay of the human condition. We would all be better off if this film had never been made. Even this review, I hated spending this time writing as it prolongs the now. Oh, as it prolongs the now. I've added to the hype about it. It's been said a bad review is better than no review. Unfortunately,
Has it been? I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
Unfortunately, I'm doing my part not to hasten this film off the stage and into the rubbish pile where it belongs, so be it. Go see it then if you must. Prepare to be completely appalled. Personally, I had to just go home and sleep a few hours because it depressed me so much. If you don't have a similar reaction to it, then I fear you may have already devolved into a lower state of beingness.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yeah, that this film emanates from. And that is the saddest thing of all.
Oh, I thought they were going to say, and I will pray for you.
Yeah. Films like Raw are made by filmmakers like young Julie just to prove that they can create an effect. Okay, you got me there, Julie. You created an effect in me. And it was pure disgust. Congratulations, Julie. I urge you not to waste the rest of your career and your considerable talents disgusting people. Try making somebody laugh. It's much harder to do and much better for humanity in every respect.
I'm sure Julie will take Karen's comment to heart.
Mm-hmm. She'll reach out to her and be like,
say, thank you so much. I've decided to quit my life's calling, my passion.
Review number 3. Spoilers. You should read before you're spoiled for life by this sick film. 1 out of 10. First, I will say it was a well-made film, but still I would give it negative stars if I could.
Okay.
Not sure how that works.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of horror and thrillers, and I've seen it all, but this is the first film that literally repulsed me and truly made me ill. One reviewer said that for a movie about cannibalism, it was subtle.
I thought so.
Yeah. I don't know what is subtle about a younger sister eating her big sister's finger after her passing out after accidentally cutting off her finger while giving her sister a botched Brazilian wax. That is not the worst part. Her sister covers for her and blames it on the dog who ends up being euthanized, which they think is cute. Mind you, they are in school to be veterinarians.
Yes, those are accurate.
Yep. I pray veterinarians aren't in America as they are shown to be in France. Another review said that people got sick and left halfway through. I assume during the eating of the finger, but it could have...
The hair.
The hair. But if they had watched till the end, they would have found to be an excellent, although grisly coming-of-age story.
I'm sorry, what was
This is one review, right? Like 1 out of 10?
1 out of 10.
So, stupid me sat through the rest hoping to find some sort of redemption at the end. Old sis who lost a finger jumped in front of a car for little sis so they could eat the dead from the wrecked car.
The murdered. Let's say murdered. Moited.
In the end, big sis kills Lil sis gay. Lil sis is gay. Gay want to be boyfriend. They didn't. Which Lil sis wakes up with and pulls down the cover to see thigh has been devoured. She thinks she did it until she found big sis full on the kitchen floor with a bloody face. Big sis ends up in prison, and Lil sis is forced to eat her veggies by mommy, and then daddy tells her why her and big sis have their little issue and shouldn't feel guilty by opening his shirt to show all the scars mommy left, taking bites out of dad, which is why mom is trying to make her a vegetarian. That's one sentence. There. Now you don't have to watch this disgusting movie. I wish I hadn't, but no one can say my review is bad because I didn't watch till the end. I also really hope no dogs were killed or tortured for the dissection scenes. Of course they weren't.
Are you not stupid?
Are you stupid?
I didn't mean it to sound exactly like that.
I'm not sure I will ever be able to eat again.
Oh, the whole time I'm sitting here, I'm like, God, I'm hungry.
My stomach is growling.
I was actually thinking of making steak tartare because I want raw meat.
There was nothing subtle about this movie. It was 100% sickening. And that's it.
I wonder if you can hear my stomach growling throughout this.
So with that, Jessica, let's go into our final ratings. What is your rating?
Let's see. I don't know if I'd recommend this movie.
Yeah.
I would have to be someone who I don't know. I guess I don't know if I'd like this movie or I would recommend this movie to everyone. It definitely grossed me out, but I don't think in a way that pushed it to the point of the gore being pointless.
Yeah.
I don't know. After going through I kind of liked it even more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably going to rate it higher than I originally thought. I'll probably put it at like a 5.4.
Okay.
For me, because I would rewatch this movie.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, because like I think I said that too when we were done with the movie. I was like, you know what, I did like, but honestly, like some of the points that they were bringing up in here brought back where I'm like, yeah, that was stupid.
There were definitely moments that they felt like big plot holes, and it felt like they were trying to carry the theme more than the actual story.
Yes, which I still think that they are.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So yeah, I think the whole like, finding or discovering your sexuality and exploring that is more important than the plot line. And sometimes that works with movies. I don't really know if it worked well with this movie, but I oddly enjoyed it.
What did you give it?
5.4.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 4 we're doing this live. I'm going to give it a 4.7. I was thinking about that too, and like whether or not I would recommend this. I honestly would only recommend to specific people that I know are going to react a certain way because I want to watch them react.
Sick fuck.
But yeah, like I don't know if I necessarily need to watch this movie again or want to. It wasn't because it was like overly disgusting or anything. It's just like I got the point. I got the idea of the theme of the movie. I felt like it was pretty obvious, but I don't know, like just like some of the things too that we talked about, like you were saying, like the plot holes for certain things or just things that they obviously just didn't care to kind of show or to expand on a little bit more. Like I said, the environment in which they kind of built. It was
easier for their story to stand without the repercussions.
And I was just like, what the hell? Like, where are all the professors? How is this school like set up? Like there was a scene where it just shows a bunch of fucking mattresses just laid out. And I'm like, this school is just chaos. How do they get people to come in? How do they get donors? How do they get, like people who help fund the school? Obviously, like, you're being there helps do that, but they also rely on donations and things like that. And I don't understand how they would do that. So like,
or like, how would anyone have a good reputation from graduating?
Exactly. I was thinking, I was like, I need to know the people that graduate from the school. They must be like, they must be, very well known, veterinarians all around the world because they went to this one school because they do certain things differently than other veterinarian schools. But I don't know. And I think just the whole like what we can assume is just a 2-year curriculum, which is still odd to me too. But either way,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of issues with it. I weirdly just kind of liked it.
No, yeah, that's fine. It's just, it would have helped me a lot more. And then I would have given it a 5
It
like a solid,
yeah.
but I just can't give it that.
I feel like there wasn't enough, it felt too based in reality for them to excuse these plot holes, where there are some movies where it's like, you don't know if, like, even Mandy, like, they're kind of traveling through, like, these trips and these dreamlike states and back and forth. So like, you can excuse plot holes here and there. That wasn't the case with this movie.
Yeah. I'm pretty big proponent on, like, the theme is not going to override consistency of this world. If they established this world, it seems like a pretty fairly normal world in which, you live in Europe and shit. But normal. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not like it's the Last Jedi or something where they're like, no, it's the theme. It's like what it was about. And you're like, but what about everything else? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Quit being a fan. You're just a fan. Be a true fan and not be a fan or something. I don't know. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, let's not. You have your other shows for that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say, like, if you're curious about it, go ahead. Yeah. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
It's not one that I think anyone has to watch.
No.
So if you're bored and you're curious, maybe just test out the waters a little bit. See if you like it and, experiment.
Thanks for listening to another awesome and just amazing episode of Folie Deux. If you want updates on new episodes, or, sometimes we post some sick memes, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Call us, text us.
Send us an email.
No, don't do that.
Well, yeah, they could, though, if they wanted to. Search for @FAD_podcast, Fad Podcast. We're also on YouTube too, so you can watch some vids on there. And let us know what movies you want us to see. We have some movies lined up. We've spun the spooky spinner, so we can kind of prep for that too. But we love to hear your recommendations. I want to know what people are watching or what they want to see.
My hope is that we find, like, some, diamond in the rough kind of movies.
Oh yeah,
it's like, I want to find a movie that I've not heard of, something that's actually going to surprise me and I'm going to like. And
more than likely, like, dreading. Like, we're just like, oh god. Okay.
I was not looking forward to this film. No. I was just, like, not in the mood, didn't want to do it, but I was surprised. Yeah. I guess
it wasn't what I was thinking.
So. I'd like something better. So you know what? The gauntlet has been thrown down, people.
So with that, adieu to you, Jessica.
And Folie, adieu to you too.
Give me way, blow the man down, and pray pay attention and listen to me. Give me some time to blow the man down. I'm a deep water sailor just in from Hong Kong. Give me way, blow the man down. If you give me some